energy blockages are the cause of the devil. As we come down to this planet, over many, many lifetimes, we absorb energy blockages. And the more energy blockages we absorb, the more evil we become. The whole purpose of the perfect enemy of the devil, of absorbing energy blockages, which are psychic. These are not physical. They are psychic, they have emotional effects. The whole purpose of absorbing these energy blockages is to teach us about energy blockages. To teach us that they can be made. To teach us that they can be formed out of trauma and pain. To teach us that the whole of psychiatry and the whole of psychology is a treatise on energy blockages. And what we can make out of this psychology and psychiatry is that the psychologists and psychiatrists have no cure. They can only talk about the situation to persuade people not to do what their energy blockages are telling them to do the right thing. You go to the psychologist as you go to a priest. You confess your sins and you receive absolution. But it has no real effect except to tell you that you have an energy blockage problem. And we don't have the solution. And when the symptoms of the energy blockage get too strong, when your normal life becomes to be affected by these energy blockages, then the only solution is the pain pill. Psychiatrists and psychologists can prescribe lithium and Zoloft and hundreds of different pain pills ending in heroin and higher levels of drugs that can really knock you out and make you safe for all the people in society. Oh, you will lose several years of your lifetime, but you won't be a problem for other people. You'll be wandering around like a zombie. But you won't be a problem for other people. But they don't have a methodology to remove the energy blockages, which we in energy enhancement meditation teach through ancient technologies to transmute and burn up so that we can purify our systems of all that energy blockage evil. To remove the daily karma painting and create the clean white sheet again. We can come back to a position when we landed on this planet 100 lifetimes ago. A clean white sheet, but sharpened up by all the experiences, by all the knowledge, by all the history that we've been into in those 100 lifetimes. We know it balls to bones. We've been down that path and we know where it ends. And we don't want to be there. We know every path on the path of evil because we've been down them. And we were just not bad enough to go further down that evil path. Eventually it comes a point where everybody cracks, where the evil is just too much. In my third book, my third volume of Against Satanism, it enters into this definition of Satanism as rituals. which for 10,000 years, in the honor of Molech and Baal and Ashtoreth and all of the evil gods in South America, who demand human sacrifice, who demand the blood of their victims, who demand cannibalism, who demand pedophilia as part of their satanic rituals. Because the purpose of satanic rituals is to increase the number of evil energy blockages inside you. And it's to make you more and more evil, more capable of doing the psychopathic, sociopathic, evil things that people do when they've got too many energy blockages. You have been here on this planet for 100 lifetimes, and there's a beautiful story which is told by a Zen master, and he takes his student and he goes into the forest to a place where there is a 100-foot pole which is a little bit greasy, and he says to the student, "Climb up that pole." The student goes to the pole, and he's climbing up the pole, and he's going up 3 feet, and he's sliding down 2. And he's going up 3 feet, and he's sliding down, and he's going higher and higher. Eventually, he gets to the top of this 100-foot pole, swaying about in the wind. And he's standing there on top of this pole, and he's going, "Master! Master! What do I do now?" And the master cries up, "Take 1 step higher!" What is this? You've been here for 100 lifetimes. You've been through the mill. You've had so many perfect enemies with whom you've had to sharpen yourself up with. You have rejected evil. You've come to that place of evolution at the top of a 100-foot pole. And you're standing on top of the pole. And now the Zen master, the meditation master, is shouting, "Take 1 step higher!" And this is absolute nonsense in physical terms. But in terms of meditation, the master is talking about the infinite series of chakras above the head. He's talking about the first chakra above the head, which is called the soul. And Alice Bailey defines enlightenment as being a soul-infused being. A person who has climbed 1 step higher from the slippery, greasy pole which you have climbed up to this moment, and made that psychic step, that quantum leap into existence. You have crossed the abyss, which is the astral plane, ending in the soul, the first chakra above the head. You have got to the other shore, landed on the other shore. You are there in the soul. You exist in the soul. You are fused with the soul. And that is called the first level of enlightenment. Take 1 step higher. And in order to make that leap, you must have removed all the energy blockages in your psychic body and in your physical body and in your emotional body. You must have nothing holding you back. In yoga, they call it integration. Well, integration is 1 step higher again. Integration is to integrate the mind, to take out all the energy blockages in the mind, pulling it to the bad side, pulling it to the good side. You know, on the left shoulder you have the black angel who is telling you to do all the evil things, and on the right shoulder you've got the white angel, the good angel, who is telling you to do all the good things. And there's a sort of a a congress, a parliament in the mind, where they count the votes and you decide to do the evil or the good thing. Well, integration means that this parliament has been reduced to one soul-infused personality. That is enlightenment. That is the soul, is the personality which is in charge of the body through a fusion, an energetic fusion, a column of energy flowing out of the head up into the soul, being so fused that the two are one. Because you are not the body, you are not the mind, you are not the emotions. Immortal self thou art. And you are totality. You are the whole. You are the column of energy twixt heaven and earth. You are connected to the infinite chakras above the head ending in God. You are connected with the infinite chakras below the base chakra, giving you more and more solidity, more and more energy to do your task. You are responsible for the purity of that column of energy. And when we are talking about the column of energy with reference to King Arthur, legend of the sword, the reality of the sword, Excalibur, plunged into the storm, is the column of energy sword connected with the center of the earth. A true human being is not just the earth. A true human being has taken that one step higher to connect with God. And that is the message of King Arthur. That is the message of Excalibur. This is the message of the sword in the storm. So, you are here on this planet to evolve. You are here on this planet to become that person who can only do the right and good thing. You are the person who has fought against evil physically in all of your previous lifetimes, and it's sharpened you up. But the meaning of enlightenment is that the master sits still and everything goes on correctly around him. He does not work physically. The people around him either absorb the energy of the master or they don't. But as they absorb more and more the energy of the master, they become more and more perfect in doing what they are meant to do. Don't work physically. Work psychically, with meditation. Because the pen is mightier than the sword, but more mighty than the pen is Excalibur, the sword in the storm, the column of energy connecting you to your soul, to your monad, to your logos, to the universe itself of suns and of galaxies and of God. To be or not to be? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or by choosing arms against a sea of troubles, end them. And Shakespeare wrote these words for the play Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, whose mother has had her husband murdered by her uncle and then has been forced to marry the uncle so that the uncle can become the king of Denmark. Incredible number of bad things that have been done on this planet and are being done all the time. There is complete injustice everywhere on this planet, and yet underneath it there is an underlying justice for most people. Karma comes into it. We teach how to remove karma in energy enhancement. So, in the play, Hamlet chooses to take arms physically against a sea of troubles and thus creates the tragedy of Hamlet, Prince of Denmark. Rather than taking arms against a sea of troubles physically, I recommend psychically, through meditation, as well as removing the energy blockages within you to become a perfect and good human being. Use this technology, use this meditational technology also to remove the energy blockages of the world. Now, many people have complained to me that you are the first master that has ever mentioned Satanism. And I wrote a whole sequence of books. Well, I put them together. Volumes 1 to 8 at the moment. There'll be more. Putting out the whole history of the bad things that have happened in history and now in this world. It's a lot safer to say, history 10,000 years ago than it is about the current things that are going on in the planet, which is why I stick with the history. And by meditating on the bad things that I mention in those books, it's possible to ground them and change the world without acting physically. First book I talk about Anti-Satanism number 1, volume 1. It's the history of the world. And in that book, I say that Karl Marx was a British agent. Well, of course, he wasn't just a British agent. Karl Marx was an agent of the Phoenician Navy that have been taking over every country on this planet for 10,000 years. They took over all the kings and queens and countries of Europe. They took over all the kings and queens and countries of Africa, of China, of India, of Russia, so that every country over 10,000 years has been taken over. The Phoenician Navy. And one of the outposts of that taking over is the history of Karl Marx writing Das Kapital, writing about communism, creating communism from the notes of his handler, Ambassador Urquhart of the British government, to create a communism to fool all the serfs that had been freed by Alexander the Great in Russia. The Tsar Alexander had freed all the slaves. Serfs were slaves. Russian slaves. They're not all black, Irish slaves, Australian slaves, Lebanese slaves, Middle East slaves, Arabic slaves, slaves in every country of the world for 10,000 years. And these slaves, like all the underclasses in every country in the world, the people who are not the top 10% of society, the people who pay no attention to what is going on and just prefer to watch football and television and have sex and have a good time. Nothing wrong with that. This is the way that people grow over 100 lifetimes. And these people are like children. And you don't say, oh, these are bad gene pools, these are white trash, these are bad people who should be genocided. No, you say, there, little boy, go and have fun, learn a few things, enjoy yourself. You don't really get angry with kids. No, you do if they do some bad things, but you just smack them on the bottom and there they go. No problems. So, the British Phoenicians created communism to put into Russia and to fool all the slaves that they were going to have a better society if they had a revolution. There has been no revolution in the history of this planet that hasn't been created by the oligarchs, the Phoenicians, the people in charge of this planet. I can go through them. I do go through them in my books. The colour revolutions created by the CIA in every country in Europe, in the Lebanon. Oh, every year, a revolution. And it's always to put in a dictator who will do what the oligarchs say. So Lenin was an agent of the British government, and he's sent to Russia with 100,000 Bolsheviks who are Antifa, Jacobin mercenaries in order to take over Russia and pretend that they're doing this in the name of the people. And then Lenin starts off a revolution. Everybody goes, oh wow, fantastic. And in order to lock down the country, in order to assuage his need for blood, more blood, quote from Lenin, Satanist, Lenin, they go on over the next few years to murder 60 million people in the revolution of the people. And they used communism in every country of the world to create a revolution which would then control the people for the oligarchs. In China, the CIA had a choice between Mao, the good guy, Sun Yat-sen, and Chiang Kai-shek. And they murdered Sun Yat-sen by poisoning him. They sent Chiang Kai-shek to Formosa or Taiwan, out of the way, and they put Mao in charge. And then they said to Mao, who was a 33rd degree Freemason, they said to Mao, who was educated at Yale University, an American institution, they said to Mao, oh, let's have a cultural revolution. Let's teach all the children that their parents are so bad that they've got to be killed. And the children killed their own parents, and 100 million people died in China after Mao's takeover. Anyway, this is history. You can read about it for yourself in that volume. And then, volume 2. Paedophile, genocidalist, eugenocidalist Plato, and no soul Aristotle. And I give in the first few chapters of Plato's Republic the information about the four people who argue against justice, against doing the right thing. They make arguments for doing the wrong thing. And they first of all give the myth